Well, the young people of Trinidad and Tobago are crying out for change. Now, this is one of the sentiments expressed by Pastor Clive Dottin. He's with us this morning via Zoom. Good morning, Pastor Dottin. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Well, thank you,
Pleasure.
sir. I start the conversation by, I'm quoting from you now, many young people want a better way. They want to be shown a better way. They want their hearts to be transformed. Could we say this with certainty when many a times in Trinidad and Tobago, when you read the news, many young people actually that are causing a lot of the negativity that we're seeing in society?
Well, I want to tell you that the majority of our young people want to have a better Trinidad and Tobago. Now, I want to go to the context, if you would allow me.
Sure.
On Sunday morning, I marched with the Aranguez Government Primary School. And by the way, the theme of their program was Family United Against Crime. I have complimented the principal, all right, Nigel Clark, who is a new principal there with a lot of dynamism, and he is prepared to take on the criminal elements in the community there. And then on Monday morning, so that's Sunday, on Monday morning, I was at Sandy Grande SDA, Seventh-day Adventist Primary School. And the young people came out in their numbers. We got a 90-minute delay because, Grande is the bathroom of Trinidad and Tobago. So it rained cats and dogs and tigers and leopards. But at 9, we had prayed and we experienced a miracle. The rain suddenly stopped and gave us a chance to go out on the road and communicate our message. Now, I want to tell you, when coming to young people call me the incurable optimist. That's when they're not calling me the gangster pastor. But we had a march, but I didn't know the background. The background was that school was hurting. And I'm telling you, those young people, I believe the school had 252. And 99% of them came out there on the march. They were dynamic. They had a chant, stop the violence right now, stop the violence right now. All right. And they chanted along the way. They were excited. Their parents came with them. So we had a march of over 300. This one school, okay, we stopped by Bates Memorial, which is a sister Seventh-day Adventist secondary school. And I did not know that they had experienced murder firsthand. A first-year, 6-year-old female student was shot and killed. And I understand she was caught in the gang rivalry in a certain hotspot in the Grande area. Grande, like Valencia, have become hotspots now. And I could tell you that the majority of our young people want to have that change in the society. And as the Prime Minister said, yes, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but okay, fair enough. But we're speaking about primary school students who are still very much innocent of what is taking place. It's very unfortunate that this 6-year-old succumbed being caught in the crossfire of gang warfare. However, the attitude and the mindset of young people tend to change when they get into high school. And I mean, you see what's taking place in the high school. The second part of it, you've also mentioned denominational schools. We've had this conversation before. You tend to have more active PTs in denominational schools. You tend to have a stronger approach, I suppose, to spirituality, and even a teacher's approach is different. So there are many complexities to this. But this is the thing. Young people, we also have to understand whom we're defining as young people. Because as a child enters a secondary school, their mindset and their attitude tends to change. So the next part is, are young people willing to work towards a better Trinidad and Tobago?
I believe young people are willing to work, the majority of them. If I should give a non-scientific figure, all right, I believe over 70% of our young people are willing to work. But sometimes and that is the cry I was making in The Guardian, we don't allow them, we don't mobilize them and galvanize them. And worse than that, my friend, sometimes we don't set them the right example at all. And that is a major challenge. In a particular school in Port of Spain West, I will give you an example of that. A young girl came to me, she said, Pastor, what do I do? All right, what do I do? What? I said, what is your challenge? She says, Pastor, my father is a drug dealer and he wants me to pack the ganja, you know, in the home to get it distributed. Now, I've had complaints from women who are living with these guys or married to them. The same complaints. Of course, when you're adult, you have more authority to deal with the issue, but that's a major challenge. When we're talking about the drug trade here, we're talking about guns and weapons and things too, not just the drugs. But most of those guys are protecting their turf. And protection of turf means guns have to be involved. So that you have two perspectives here. One is you have the intergenerational disease, all right, and I'm calling drug trade that disease, that societal disease you have there. And then you have children who are under pressure from within the home when the adults are involved in negative stuff. And I have a group called Courage Unlimited, please, and we are dedicated to helping young people and children who experienced that. But let me tell you something. There's some young people growing up in situations where they almost have no choice. Now, let me go into a situation involving two secondary schools. Just one example, because I'm always in the schools. Here you have a principal in a part of the corridor, the western part of the corridor, calling another principal. Now, I did the graduation. Let's say principal A, calling principal B. And I want to tell you the recruitment process for a lot of our young people, all right, is heavy because Principal B told me Principal A called him and told him they are gang members in his school who are involved in the drug trade. So I asked him, you sure? He says, yes, he called me. And he told me the recruiter is in his school. The recruiter in school A, Principal A, school A, all right, is recruiting students not too far away in another secondary school. So I asked him, did Principal A tell you who is involved on the outside? Because I'm sure, recruiter A wouldn't have enough money to recruit and to distribute the drugs. He will have to get it from somewhere. He said, yes, there's a community, a gang leader, a drug dealer around Principal School A. And he's the one that has encouraged this young boy in School A to recruit people in School B. Mm-hmm. And the principal said, Pastor, I was extremely shocked. So what I want to show you is that it's not the young people alone. I was at the university 3 years ago when they brought a Latin American scholar who did research on young people in crime. And he didn't say a word about the godfathers of the drug trade. The guys who are bringing in, for example, look at that seizure they had with $234 million worth of cocaine. I don't think that was a young person who brought in that. And it had to be a filthy rich guy who brought in that. And I believe the guy who they held, all right, he's not the real guy.
Okay, but so Pastor Dottin, if young people are crying out for change, why is it that more and more, I know you mentioned the influences within the household, I understand that, I agree. Yes. But part of change, this is why I asked if young people are willing to work towards this change, because part of it is them having to break that culture and that mindset and no, listen, this is wrong, I shouldn't get involved, I shouldn't have to do this. I don't want to be a part of this. So why is it that we're still seeing young people, like you just gave an example within a high school setting, getting involved in this nonsense?
Well, let me tell you something. You have to understand with young people, there's something called peer pressure. And psychologists, clinical psychologists and educational psychologists have dealt with this for a long while. So the thing is that there's some young people, and the major problem here is the breakdown in the home. I don't want you to forget that. And of course, you have the issue of single parenting, exactly. So that you have the peer pressure from their peers, you have the social media, don't forget that. And then you have a breakdown in the home. So a lot of them are getting the pressure from a triangulation of forces, all right? So that you have to understand that is what is going on. But my experience has been, and then there are a lot of young adults, all right, and even some in authority who have given up on young people. And that is something we have to watch so that, and of course, with the gang and drug trades, I must tell you, it is not easy for some people to contemplate, to visualize getting involved because of the dangers involved. Okay. And then there are some young people who are, they have not been socialized properly. All right. Yeah. We talk about the agencies of socialization, the home, the church, and the school. All right. And sometimes the agencies of socialization pull away from the challenge because of the violence, the potential violence, and the risk to their lives. And remember, youth growing up love to experiment. The adolescent culture is a culture of experimentation. And once you get involved in that drug thing and start to use it, and the younger you start to use it, for example, dealing with they're taking drugs now. The harder it is for them to break free. It takes the power of God. It takes an informed community. It takes solid parents. It takes preachers and social workers, who are wise in how they relate to them. So look at the gang violence in schools now. To be honest with you, you have a school, let's say Tranquility, for example, just to mention a school, not to demonize them. But you could have out of that, how much run they have? About 700 kids there. You could have about 40 out of that 700 involved in the violence, okay? So that you may have slightly more, because I have been to that school with it, and I compliment the Love Until Foundation for their intervention in terms of bullying. So we spend some time in that school, for example. And generally, it's about 40 to 50 young people involved in this stupidness, if you understand where I'm coming from. So it takes an informed principal and teachers and staff and parents. And you mentioned the PTA. I have to make a call now because when we talk about PTAs, many of them are not functional. Some have started to get functional now because they see what is taking place. But if you have a PTA where parents are not showing interest, then that PTA refuses, to become an agent of change. And we have got to ask, and you may raise a relevant point, for more PTAs to be involved. And then you want a PTA, it's parent teachers. You don't want parents alone. You want parents and teachers. You don't want teachers alone. You want parents to come out. You want both of them to come out. Now is the time for us to capitalize on a wave that I am seeing in the society. A small wave, a tiny wave, but it will grow if we have the commitment, if we have the spirit of sacrifice to move forward and use the positive young people as an agent of change to impact upon, use peer pressure, positive peer pressure to impact upon the other
Pastor
young.
Dottin, listen, I agree. I agree. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying because I too am an optimist. But this attitude of sacrifice does not necessarily exist in society. I think we've become a very greedy society, that are not a very selfish society where sacrifice is not part of our everyday living. However, on the flip side, with everything that you've just mentioned, is it that the only leaders we may be hearing about tomorrow in Trinidad and Tobago, with everything that you just mentioned, if we do not act as a society, as a whole, the only leaders we could look forward to are gang leaders?
I am telling you, I want to be honest with you. We're going to keep losing young people, all right, if we do not act and act seriously. You're quite right. We have to act, and we always have to say it to those in authority. We have to act now. There's a role. I agree. There's a role for each group to play: the home, the church, the school, business organizations, the police, the law, etc., etc. But I want to emphasize on your program today the urgency requires that all of us have to come together. Yes, it's a materialistic, greedy society and selfish society, so that the issue of sacrifice, apart from what I mentioned here, that the drug trade and the gang business, involves money. But apart from that, we have got to understand. And I think some of us are in denial. I listened to the 95.5 yesterday evening on the afternoon drive show, and I've listened to more than one show and more than one station. And a lot of young people, a lot of folks are saying, adults are saying, that's not our business. We are not going to get involved. I'm saying about my child. Okay? Now, when you have that attitude, and by the way, this is a blatantly corrupt society. It's not another true corrupt in this society. They're on the other end of the pole. Okay? But a lot of folks in authority think, corruption and greed must be the way to go for them to get ahead in this society. And you have a lot of folks who are supposed to be role models, and they're setting a horrible example to the young people.
So then, Pastor Dottin,
and once they get with it,
is it that we are protecting the corrupts from the just rather than the just from the corrupts?
Correct. You're correct. That is where the society has reached, and we have to acknowledge that. Okay. And I tell folks, I hear it on the radio all the time, them bad ones are going to the young people, but I'm saying to you, the real monsters in our society are those who are owning and managing. The IADB says that our underground economy is equivalent to a national budget, 1/3 of the gross domestic product. All right. And that you have big people and people who have the resources and the capital, the fuel, all these, the negative trade, the gambling, the drug trade, the importation of guns, because we don't manufacture guns here. So they are allowed to come here by senior people too. So that I am saying that is where we are. We have to aim to break the back of the corruption racket, because the young people watching us too, and they know that a lot of us talking and we are just being blatant hypocrites. So we have got to mobilize the genuine people, and by the grace of God, hope for and expect change.
All right. No, a couple of things before you go, Pastor Dottin.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, you previously mentioned that we all have to come together, all households, the community, the businesses, the leaders. But you've also said, we need spirituality as well. And the Pentecostals, the Catholics, the Hindus, the Muslims, all groups need to come together and display unprecedented levels of courage. I'm quoting from you.
Right.
But is that diversity and pluralism seen or perceived to be weakness? Is that level of pluralism and diversity also what is creating a level of division because we as a society are simply not accepting of it?
Well, I believe, my friend, you have hit the nail on the head. Diversity is seen as weakness by people, and then there are religious groups who want to go alone. They feel they alone could manage the society and produce the change. And of course, there's a selfishness that you see even in religion, and this selfishness is, I want to get the credit. Now, they don't say that. They could talk plurality in front of the cameras and on the radio, but in their hearts, they don't really feel that is the way to go. They feel their group could, that would not stand to benefit in coming together. We will merge into one and lose our identity. And that is another false conception, because you could come together and still maintain your identity. All right. What you have to do is practice, respect for the conviction of others. And that calls for a whole reframing of perception in this society. Because even in terms of religion, for example, all right, well, don't talk about the political parties. They're the authors of divisiveness in the society. And as Max Richards had said, the late Max Richards, instead of preparing for the next generation, they're preparing for the next election, when they should be preparing for the next generation. And I call upon the Minister of Youth and National Service, let's get the national service going, all right? Do what you have to do your consultation. But it's years now, we have to get that national service. I see that as definitely necessary for the negative youths and the youths engaged, and being recruited, faster than Usain Bolt could run the 100 meters. That is important. So I want to mention that. You're correct. We are protecting the corrupt from the just rather than just from the corrupt. And that's the reason why some of the just don't want to get involved. Because, for example, in terms of some law enforcement officers, they're aware of what they're involved in. And that is so serious and so sad and so traumatic. I want to tell you this. I rescued a girl, and her boyfriend was protected. She regretted very much, a young girl, that she had gotten involved with this drug dealer. And the drug dealer was protected by a police and a soldier. You know, I hate to tell these stories, but this is a reality that points to where you are coming from and what you are saying and seeing. So therefore, we have to work so much harder, and it appears to be impossible. But we still have to be like yourself, incurable optimists in moving the nation forward and trying to rescue as many young people as we could rescue,
Pastor,
and families too.
Pastor Clive Dottin, thank you very much for joining me on the program this morning.
God bless.
You know, I
God
appreciate
bless.
your time, sir, and appreciate all the work that you're doing. You know, that's
Thank you.
That's
Thank
one
you.
step in the positive direction. Keep well, sir. All the best.
God bless.
Yeah.
God bless.